From Wall Street to Main Street, this is Lalate.
It's a big evening of evenings LA with incredible great news. Fourth stimulus check update of 2022. Direct from the shores of Santa Monica, California, with the big developing details internationally that impact your money at home. In tonight's recording, we go over the incredible developing details of a potential recession looming and those inflationary numbers released tomorrow. $80,000 in new stimulus checks going live, and Jetgate. It's a little bit confusing across the board. But tonight, Americans getting some new relief. Americans getting a call from the White House to oil producers to say ramp up production of gasoline. It happened in just the last few minutes, and it's after no less than 2 weeks on this channel, where viewers asked, why has gasoline not been ramped up domestically to increase production and bring down the price of the pump right across the board? The breaking news from your Interior Minister minutes ago in tonight's recording. Then, also big surges of cooperation from the Middle East that could bring down price of gasoline. And this is huge, and it happened earlier today. The OPEC Plus countries agreeing to potentially increase production that would reduce the current price of gasoline at home. Meantime, a sixth stimulus in the works between Germany, France, the United States, amidst an $80,000 in new stimulus checks going live. And you thought it was not in New York? Think again. New York is getting those $80,000 of checks, and you need it, because tomorrow on Mornings LA, I'll have the latest inflationary numbers. And while Jay Powell's job is to fix inflation, if gasoline stays at the current levels through May, we're heading into recession next year. Of all those big money, then CR for stimulus heating up in less than 24 hours. The House of Representatives to pass a legislation tonight to extend the continuing resolution, but will there be a stimulus check in there? SS-300, the latest details on Vladimir Putin and the situation that impacts your money at home. Then we'll be looking at Build Back Better Act and why the president's using the energy situation as well to get that money passed. It's a big night with a lot of money, with no less than several provisions at issue. CR for stimulus 24 hours away. Build Back Better Act just a few days thereafter. $80,000 of checks going live across the country. In California, New York, Texas, Florida today. Did you get the money? And then sixth stimulus going live in just a few days as well. Meantime, the price of gasoline coming down, and a recession could be right around the corner. All these details and more in a big night of America's most watched financial news channel. In prime time, it's evenings, and it all starts right now. Good evening, everybody. Having a beautiful night, and across the board, the situation unfolding dramatically as gas prices drop overnight, and a recession could loom in less than 5 weeks from now. Inflationary numbers coming out tomorrow, and a new deal with the president, Germany, and France that could give you a sixth stimulus. Meantime, Jetgate. Where do we park the jet? It's a little bit confusing. I'll have all the details of why the vice president has been prodded for part of the equation. Meantime, big money with CR for stimulus, SS-300, $80,000 checks, and also the Build Back Better Act. All in tonight's recording, we have a big night across the board, and then we'll have the latest details for what's happening overseas, and we'll check in Ukraine, in the beautiful town of Odessa. Where is the battleground tonight? But first tonight, your money. And your money, in less than 24 hours from now, on Mornings LA at 9 a.m. Thursday morning, we're going to see the new inflationary number. The Consumer Price Index number will be released tomorrow morning, and it'll show us if we are ready for recession or ready for more inflation. The latest details happening tomorrow morning, but first let's go into the Build Back Better Act. The Build Back Better Act will pass, the President of the United States says in a new interview, with 3 classes of checks and 3 add-ons of checks, because why? He says gas prices are going higher and you need that Build Back Better Act to pass. So let's look at those incredible checks that are in there tonight. 3 clusters and 3 add-ons of checks that bring you at least $15,000 across the land. In that first cluster of checks, we have the incredible home repairs for low-income community, hazard pay. For my essential workers, 1 more year of the earned income tax credit, $3,600 for my college for the young children, and then $550 checks for college students, $4,000 of elder care, and then $12,500 for the purchase of a new electric vehicle. That is the first of 3 clusters of checks in the Build Back Better Act that will pass, the President of the United States says, in a new interview released on Sunday, and also, of course, in that State of the Union address last Tuesday. The first add-on of checks comes from here on the shores of Santa Monica, California. We are watching LA Tonight. That is that big money for the purchase of your first home, a little bit less than $25,000. Got in there, and it will be given to the seller in your name at the time of escrow from the federal government via Maxine Waters in Southern California. The second cluster of 3 clusters of checks in the Build Back Better Act has more for you across the board. Home repairs if you live in a low-income community to weatherize your home, and paid leave. This is a lot of money, paid leave. If you work W-2 or 1099, you get it. $75,000 or less, $1,700 a week. $35,000 annual salary, split in half. And then $15,000 annual salary, split more in half. If you don't work, but your son or daughter does work, they're going to get the incredible check as well if they have to take off from work to take you to the doctor. Then, when we turn to the second add-on of checks, it comes from Bob Casey. Just a little bit less than $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. In that third cluster of checks, we have free internet, farmers' checks, independent contractors' checks, and then the seniors' checks. 2 on the House, 3 on the Senate. On the House side, the Medicaid gap fix, providing years of workaround insurance to low-income uninsured people in 12 Republican states, and then hearing checks for that hearing aid. On the Senate side, they have dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare, which is par for course when we're talking about adding checks to the Build Back Better Act, because the senators represent, they would add in there an MSC. This is a monthly IRS stimulus check that would go on top of the existing checks that are in the Build Back Better Act that already pay you at least $15,000 to $60,000. Eligibility would be the same as a third stimulus check. The legislators tell viewership of this channel. Single individual, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it. Double it. Family 4, you get it as well. Quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you get it as well. It's not income, it's not taxable, and it goes nationwide across the board, and that is incredible. This is one of the many provisions that will be added on the Senate side, like the money for the independent contractors and other items across the board. But what's important to know when you're looking at these MSCs, these are really incredible. When understanding the MSC at issue, what do you need to know? The President of the United States is now using oil and gas as a reason to get the fourth stimulus recon passed. And that is breaking news tonight. In a new interview with a Boston historian, Heather Cox Richardson, Joe Biden says that if you want to reduce the burden on the American people who are struggling to pay for gasoline, the way you do it is you increase their standard of living by passing the Build Back Better Act. And there you go. That is what's happening tonight and the push to pass it across the board. But also happening tonight, of course, is CR for stimulus. CR for stimulus is very important in view of the inflationary concerns and recessionary concerns coming up late in this video, and those $80,000 of checks that have gone live. CR for stimulus has a major update tonight, and that update tonight is that the House has passed an ancillary piece of legislation. What's at issue? The U.S. House will vote tonight on a legislation to fund the government through September, whether we have inflation or recession, and will include $14 billion of aid to Ukraine with bipartisan support. Congress will try to pass the spending bill by Friday to give the Senate some time to work on it, and will also provide an extension to Tuesday. So the good news is that the CR will not be moved at the moment into the month of April. The bipartisan agreement will help us address the many issues at hand, says Nancy Pelosi and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer in a major statement released minutes ago. Now, the Biden administration supports the legislation, but the question is whether that legislation, the continuing resolution, has COVID money in there. At issue is the COVID money. Why? $1.5 trillion of discretionary funding has been allocated in that continuing resolution, and Republicans and Democrats vowed to remove their support for the continuing resolution from a March deadline later this week if there's one penny in there for COVID. At the time of this recording, it's really not clear if the COVID money is still in there. The Republicans are vowing to remove their support, so we'll see what's happening tomorrow. Again, Friday, that's where we are at the moment, with an inherent deadline potentially extended to Tuesday because that ancillary piece of legislation that's likely to be passed tonight. So it's not inherently the deadline set for Friday. We have a backup up to Tuesday. But at the moment, no one's moving to April. That's the good news across the board. $1.5 trillion of discretionary funding in there, though, would give you the opportunity to get a $2,000 stimulus check out to millions of Americans. We're advocating for it, and you need to advocate as well. Pick up that phone and advocate to those senators saying, we've supported Build Back Better. It's been a couple weeks, and you need to put a stimulus check in that continuing resolution. $1.5 trillion discretionary funding would provide enough for a $2,000 stimulus check, whether or not there's Ukraine money in there or not, or COVID, because it's not a lot of money they're asking for. Pick up the phone and advocate to Schumer, Casey, Coons, Warren, Wyden, Sanders, and all those legislators who vowed to give you a check. Pick up that phone right tonight. Now, when we look at the opportunity to get checks before a CR, before a Build Back Better Act, before a sixth stimulus coming up late in this video, what is it? It's live. And have you gotten the money? Well, here is the map. The map tonight is the situation unfolding, and this is a map of moolah. A map tonight shows the situation where those $80,000 of checks are now paying out. This is the Homeowners Grant Program, first detailed on this channel last Friday. It went live this Monday. And if you're looking at the map and your state is in the color of California, Arizona, Missouri, Arkansas, Florida, you are live with a program, which will make you think, wait a second, why is New York alive? I thought New York was excluded from these $80,000 checks. Surprise, it is included. The breaking news tonight is that New York will have those $80,000 of stimulus checks for you. This is the incredible homeowners grant, and later in this video, we're going to go over how to get that incredible homeowners grant. That is a breaking news map that you're seeing tonight for the first time in this recording. Also coming up later in this video is the exciting details of a sixth stimulus package. It will be done at the same time as fourth, at the same time as those $80,000 of checks. Also later in tonight's recording, we'll be looking at that major potential deal in the Middle East to ramp up production of gasoline. You need it because in less than 6 weeks from now could be a potential recession if gasoline prices don't go down. They went down today based upon a rumor, but tonight I don't have a rumor. I have big news for you. And it's the news that I'm very excited to deliver for you. The White House says ramp up production domestically. Let's do it. What's taking so long? I've been saying this for 2 weeks. West Texas has been saying this for 2 weeks. And tonight, the White House, under pressure, has finally said, oh, we always wanted to ramp up production. Yeah. Well, this is incredible great news, and this is a major developing detail you're hearing for the first time tonight on Evenings LA. But what is happening Thursday morning, tomorrow morning, March 10th, 2022? Jay Powell, you and I will be watching Mornings LA because I will have the new consumer price index number, which will tell us where inflation was for the month of January. That inflationary number is important because it sets up SS 300. Let me tell you what's going on. Inflation is tracking at about 8% for the month of December, 7.5%. And in less than 24 hours from now, on Mornings LA, tomorrow morning, I will have the latest inflationary number released when the consumer price index number comes out. If it tracks in at about 7 to 8%, then guess what? Great news for your SSI and SSDI, whether we have a recession later next year or not, because Jay Powell hasn't reduced inflation just yet, and Joe Biden can make the swap. What is the swap? Joe Biden, when running for president of the United States, vowed to replace COLA with inflation, And by replacing COLA with inflation, your benefits today would go up $200. If it was replaced out 30 days from now, it would also go up $200. But that's hoping that inflation doesn't go down in the new number released tomorrow. Will it go down or won't it? I'll have the latest details and why Vladimir Putin's part of the equation. It's tomorrow morning on Mornings LA, but here's what you need to know going into tonight's recording. 7.5% is where inflation tracked in the month of December, and I'm predicting the number tomorrow to be released on Mornings LA live on air at 9 a.m., the Consumer Price Index, will be about 8%. The good news is that if Joe Biden makes the phone call to swap out COLA for inflation today, tomorrow, next month, you're going to get that 8% kick in. Here's how it works. Once your benefits go up, they never go down. So if Joe Biden swaps out COLA for inflation at the current 8% level, you are locked in whether Jay Powell gets inflation down later this month. More about that in a second. If you lock in that 8% inflation right now, your benefits will go up $200 a month starting right now and a lifetime. Then if inflation goes down later this year to 4%, you go up about another $100. What's at issue? Jay Powell's job as the head of the Federal Reserve is to reduce inflation. And to reduce inflation, he is bringing up interest rates. Those interest rates will be brought up over 5 meetings of the FOMC over the next 5 months. But you don't want Jay Powell to raise interest rates too quickly before your SSI and SSDI, VA, and related benefits are tied to inflation. You want to be tied to inflation now when inflation is high before inflation comes back down. Simple concept across the land. Once you're locked in, doesn't matter if inflation goes down because you're tied into that higher number. Tomorrow morning, we'll see live on air at Mornings LA at 9 a.m. if the inflation number came in at 8%. And this is huge because that would mean that you could be potentially locked in at $200 more per month when Joe Biden makes the phone call. Campaign promise, platform of the United States president to swap your benefits out from COLA to inflation, and away we go. Meantime, Jetgate. Why can no one agree to where to park the jet? I will give you the hysterical details of Jetgate in the second half of this video. And then Big Shot. You met Big Shot last night. He's not a character from an HBO drama show. He's actually a character that imploded one of the commodity markets overnight. The latest details on that, plus a recession. Could a major recession be no less than 6 months away? We will know in May if that recession is happening. And why will we know? Based upon the oil prices. But why did oil prices drop overnight? And why are they likely to drop tomorrow? The incredible great news that came out just minutes before I press record on tonight's Evenings LA broadcast, it's huge. And you're going to be absolutely delighted. But you're going to be more delighted to look at this map. Yes, teal has never looked so beautiful. State after state is now blanketed with the color teal. What does that color represent? I'll tell you what it is after the commercial break, but here's a hint. It's moolah. We'll be looking at the oil and energy crisis and why this is setting up a 6th stimulus package. The biggest stimulus package you have ever seen in the history of this channel. It'll happen the same time as 4th stimulus. It's a big second half of this recording. It's a big Evenings LA with a lot of major breaking developing details in the last few minutes. But first, here's a little bit about the community page. See you back in 60 seconds as Evenings LA, America's most watched primetime financial news show, continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LA Daily for the excitement of the new LA live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LA at 9 a.m.
a.m. Lalate returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons Lalate at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on Lalate.
And the excitement continues now tonight from the shores of Santa Monica, California, with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022 and that big $80,000 of checks that went live. And did you get the money? I'll be looking at that map and that incredible payout in this big second half of this recording. But first up is that inflationary number. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. on air, live mornings LA. That consumer price index number. And why is that so huge? Because it will signal whether your benefits would go up that astronomical amount. Let's go over the details right now. Tomorrow morning on Mornings LA, the consumer price index number is released, and if it tracks in where I think it's going to land at 7 to 8%, that means that inflation did not go down for the month of January. It stayed basically where it was in the month of December. Good news for you if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad Benefits, and Veterans Benefits, because despite whatever Jay Powell, head of the Federal Reserve, does later this month, your inflation is not going down right yet. And if Joe Biden makes the phone call to swap out COLA for inflation, then you lock in that higher number. 8% lifetime, raising your benefits up once this phone call is made. Huge. Jay Powell has already indicated, the Federal Reserve Chair, that he's going to do a quarter basis point increase for interest rates this month at the March meeting of the FOMC. That would reduce inflationary rates, but not just yet. It takes a little bit of time to come through the market. And he says he's going to stay at a quarter basis point thereafter. Good news for you if that inflation number comes in at least 7.5% or more, because then the swap out from COLA to inflation by Joe Biden would raise your benefits up about $200 more per month. A new report that came out minutes ago, obtained by Lalate, says that the strength of the U.S. labor market and consumer and aggregated corporate sector should act as a way to keep us out of near-term recessionary concerns, but the volatility is present, and that with that, we're looking at the Fed potentially raising rates. Translation, the Fed will raise rates, but you don't want them to raise them too aggressively until Joe Biden makes that swap out for COLA. Tonight, a great developing details, and those first detail on this channel. I have the update tonight, as promised. The breaking developing details is a major map, and it's a map of money. And boy, it does a look deliciousness. Here's the map tonight, and what is this map of? Money being paid out on that homeowners grant program. Detailed first on this channel, last Friday, a new homeowners grant program went live, and it pays $15,000 to $80,000 of checks to viewers of this channel nationwide. But there's an update tonight, and it's even better. These $15,000 to $80,000 of checks are for people who own a home, any type of home, SSI, SSDI, VA, you qualify as well. The great news is both the eligibility and the scope of the money, and you need it in the view of the economic pressure at hand. What's the developing breaking details tonight? First, let's look at the map together. This is a map released by the federal agency administering Treasury, and it shows that the program has gone live in the teal shaded states. California, Arizona, Oklahoma, Missouri have gone live with the program. Nebraska, Florida, and yes, New York. Initially, we thought New York wasn't even going to offer the program. The program is live in New York and all those teal shaded states. In the other states, they will go live thereafter. So how do you get this incredible sum of money? And what is it? Let's go over the details starting right now. The money is definitely needed in view of the economic crisis. Let's go over how you get it. First, average payment is $15,000 to $80,000 a household. Number two, eligibility is like a third stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it, double it. And the incredible money is for items many viewers have often asked for coverage for, and we haven't had coverage for. Tonight, it's starting to already pay out. Have you gotten it? Let's go over all the incredible details of that money. The money pays for items like homeowners assistance, rent for property taxes, association fees, mortgage assistance, and more. Lots of items, and while it may look like third stimulus, it doesn't overlap with it, so you can get both. Let's go over the details of it right now. The average payment is $15,000 to $80,000, and all you have to do is own a home and be within the income qualifications of a third stimulus check. So if you're $75,000 as a single individual or married couple, $150,000 less, you'd qualify. Most states do not require you to be behind on the money, but every state is the administrator of the program. The program is administered much like unemployment stimulus covered on this channel in 2020, where one state may go live with the program before another state. You must apply and pounce Purple Hawks because it's first come, first serve. For homeowners insurance, property taxes, repairs, even mortgage payments. And the great news is that this is an addition to third stimulus. Tonight, more success stories for third stimulus. Melly Pim, who is a 2-month member of this channel, got $9,000 for rent assistance last night from watching Evenings Lalate. Also, a member of 2 months, Carol Moore, from watching Evenings Lalate last night, got $4,000 for rent and $1,100 for electric. And then David Allen last night hit the jackpot. $10,000 from watching Evenings Lalate last night in prime time. Let's go over the details so you understand the nuances of third stimulus versus this $80,000. Third stimulus pays for rent and homeowners assistance. So if you're a renter or a homeowner, you can get third stimulus. If you're a homeowner, you can also get the $80,000. And yes, it's now live in New York. Surprise, surprise. This is an addition to anything else covering this channel. You can get all these incredible sums of money, and Purple Hawks pounce and get it tonight. How do you get the money? Become a member to this channel because this is what membership benefits deliver. The membership newsletter delivered Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system is delivered to every member. And at the top of the membership newsletter, as soon as this program was announced last Friday, was the link to apply. The membership newsletter also features the amounts, the eligibility, the items it covers, and all the incredible details of this $80,000 of stimulus checks. The membership newsletter also features the big money for third stimulus, which you can still get, like David, who got $10,000 overnight last night from watching this channel. Let's turn back into the other big money heating up tonight, and the breaking news that is huge that no one saw coming. I didn't see it coming either. It's a major announcement released just minutes ago from the White House, and the White House says West Texas ramp up production of gasoline. Where did this one come from? Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine shot gasoline prices through the roof, and the situation has detangled and entangled day after day, week after week. But along the part of the equation was the confusion about West Texas. Here's what's at issue. We only import 3% of our gasoline from Russia. Most of it is not Russian oil. And we can produce more gasoline domestically. Where? In West Texas. But over the last 2 weeks, I've detailed that West Texas oil producers have said, we can produce more gasoline. We will produce more gasoline. We're ready to produce more gasoline. We've asked for the White House to give us clearance to produce more gasoline, and we haven't gotten that clearance. Let me go into the details of why tonight's developing details is a pivot, but also potentially an opportunity to save face by the presidency. West Texas oil producers are Americans, just like you and I, and they understand if they increase gasoline production in West Texas, the more gasoline there is, the price of gasoline for fellow Americans come down. They want to help you. So as soon as Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, they said, hey, we're here in West Texas, we're ready to produce more gasoline. Joe, do you want us to produce more gasoline? No response. So last week, I detailed on this channel that the Undersecretary to Janet Yellen, appeared on broadcast media, was asked, Why having the White House officials reached out to West Texas to increase production of gasoline domestically to bring down the price of gasoline for Americans, Americans for Americans. The Under Treasury Secretary refused to answer the question, not once, but twice when asked. And then the reporter came back with a follow-up question, which was, well, West Texas oil producers say that they will ramp up production. Why don't you let them ramp up production? That was nearly 7 days ago. Here's the situation tonight and why this is good news, but hopefully timely news, because I'm a little concerned about the timing. The news tonight is that I've been warning you for nearly a week that the current guidelines suggest that you need to get gasoline down, and you need to get it down fast, because if you maintain it at the current $5 a gallon nationwide, we are heading into recession next year. What are the numbers? Despite whatever rent assistance I can get you or stimulus checks, despite whatever inflation is right now, there's another problem. If gasoline prices stay at the current level, and stay at those current level into May, we're going to recession for 2 years. So what's the breaking news tonight on this front that came out of nowhere? It comes from Jennifer Granholm, the Secretary of Energy. Tonight, in a major change of events, she says we're in an emergency and we have the responsibility to increase short-term production of gasoline. Wait a second. This is the first time the United States citizens have heard the White House saying they want to increase production of gasoline out of West Texas. Now, her comments were certainly taken with a grain of salt because reporters like myself said in the latest comments tonight that the White House has been asked about this question for over a week and is acting like it never addressed the situation until tonight. I hope that we can increase gas production to meet current demand, she said in the statement just minutes ago. This is huge. She says we can walk the walk and chew the gum at the same time. The oil and gas industry, in the reports tonight about the Secretary of Energy's comments, say that's good, she's saying that tonight, but we've been asking for a week to increase production, and the White House has been unresponsive to the question. When asked for a comment about the situation, officials dismissed the claims. Here's the takeaway. West Texas oil producers all say that they've been available for over a week to increase production, to bring down the price of gasoline at the pump for you and keep us out of potential recession. The White House has categorically never reached out to them because there's been no confirmation from West Texas. There's been reports from West Texas that the White House has not reached out to them. So while Granholm tonight says that the White House is now ready to increase production, have they made the phone call to West Texas? The takeaway is very confusing. You want to hope that the president actually makes the phone call, that the undersecretary to Janet Yellen stop becoming evasive and actually makes a phone call to West Texas saying increase the production, not say that act like you asked for it before, because the White House categorically has not asked for increase in production of gasoline out of West Texas across the land. Now let me be a little bit more blunt about the situation. More blunt about the situation is, in October of 2021, last year, I told the viewership of the channel there are 100,000 Russian troops at the Ukrainian border. I told the viewership of the channel that that would be the major economic issue of 2022. Guess who also saw it? The White House. And Joe Biden at the time dispatched Treasury Janet Yellen to do an analysis if a Vladimir Putin invasion of Ukraine happened, what happens to the oil industry? They did the analysis and they understood that an oil embargo may happen. Did they pivot? No. Did they get strategic alliances lined up to get that money reallocated? No. Tonight, a lot of pivoting. And let me tell you what's going on this front, because this is very compelling. For over a week, I have told you that the White House needs to lean on its allied countries, like United Arab Emirates, like Venezuela, to increase production, and hasn't done that either. Not only has the White House not reached out to countries like Venezuela, the number one producer of gasoline, to increase production for our international partners like France and Germany, the White House has not leaned on OPEC either. So why did gasoline go down today? Let me tell you the details unfolding right across the board. Overnight, the price of gasoline dropped, the fastest drop it has seen in nearly 20 years. Why? And let me give you my opinion of the situation. The reason why gasoline dropped was a new series of rumors. They're not facts, they're rumors that OPEC may ask Iraq to increase production of gasoline internationally. Again, it's a rumor, it's not a fact. That's why Brent crude dropped overnight in a major move. How much did Brent crude drop? Internationally, Brent crude, which is the price of gasoline, fell to 108 a barrel overnight. That's 13% down from last night's broadcast. It was based upon the rumor, just the rumor, falling from 140 to 108 today, that OPEC may have gasoline ramped up in Iraq and distributed to our partner allies. The $130 price point was a factor in absolute siege mentality, says analysts. But OPEC is not budging and the Ukraine situation is worsening. Now we've reversed it all, and seemingly to a degree, I don't want to get ahead of myself, says an analyst who I featured on this channel for several days, John Kilwater, again, Capital. What's the takeaway, and what's my analysis on it tonight? The takeaway tonight is bifurcated. Let me go over what you need to know, because it's very important. First, why do you need to know this? Recession. Inflation is one issue, but recession is another issue. What will happen? Current price gas levels in the United States are very high. And if they stay at these current levels through the month of May, we're in recession for 2 years. Guaranteed. So you need to bring down gasoline. How do you bring down gasoline? You increase it domestically and you also increase it internationally. In the United States, we only import 3% of our gasoline from Russia. We import it from other sources. So why did gasoline surge early this week? Because House and Senate and Republicans and Democrats agreed to a moral piece of legislation to ban Russian oil. It's not an economic piece of legislation because Russian oil is not part of our economy. It's only 3%. That caused world markets to surge oil prices because I thought the partner countries like Germany and France may actually pivot and ban Russian oil as well. The difference with them is that in the case of Germany, 40% of its oil comes from Russia. If it bans it, where's it going to get oil? It doesn't have an inherent solution across the board. Why is the Treasury Secretary's comments tonight so troubling to me across the board? One, it shows an attempt by the White House to sort of talk about a situation but not deal with the situation. The way you deal with the situation domestically first is increase production in West Texas. That still has not happened at the time of this recording. So I make very clear that while the Secretary of Energy is talking about it, the walk is not behind the talk. Number two, the international agreement of our allied countries is still not there. Germany was approached by Anthony Blinken, our Secretary of State, over the weekend saying, get off Russian oil. They said, we can't. We don't have a solution set up. Now, here's the problem. Everyone knew that there was a potential Russian invasion of Ukraine as early as October. I featured it on this channel last October. So everyone knew that a potential pivoting off of Russian oil would be a big part of the equation, potentially in early 2022. No one had that ready. They didn't have it ready then, and now it's 2 weeks into the Russian invasion, and no one still has it ready. What is Germany looking at? And what is France looking at, and why does this impact you? Germany's economy cannot go under because our economy go under. France's economy cannot go under because our economy go under. So what are they trying to do there? Germany's changed. And Germany said, we will pivot off of Russian oil for a moral reason as well, but we have a solution. And the solution is debt spending. Yes, Germany's leadership and France's leadership on Macron right now are much like the Biden administration. They're not Republican administrations. They're very democratic ideals like progressives. And so Germany is now vowing to increase debt spending domestically to provide stimulus to its citizens and to get off Russian oil. What is this? This is sixth stimulus. Detail on this channel 2 nights ago. There's a new alliance between Germany, France, and the United States that would provide the following relief. Let me explain to you what's happening, and it's not pie in the sky. It's absolutely happening. What they're looking to do is get off that Russian oil and get onto something else, but that something else is not lined up just yet. So Germany and France are looking to get off of it and increase spending domestically, debt spending, which would involve giving stimulus to its residents locally. And this is not just Germany and France, this would also be the United States. Things are moving very quickly tonight, folks. And that's why you tuned to Evenings LA, because last night I featured for the very first time on this channel 6 stimulus. What happened after the time of the recording? The state equivalent of 6 stimulus started appearing across broadcast media with the governors of Republican and Democratic states. Governors, Republican and Democrat, last night after the Lalate said, you know what? We have an energy crisis, and we're not going to let our citizens go under because of an energy crisis. So as governors, we're coming up with solutions to give state stimulus to our citizens. Every state governor is looking at something different. I'm not going to be able to cover each state's stimulus. But I want you to know, this is what's happening with this sixth stimulus movement. It's all at the same time, and it's all happening very fluid. Let's go back into that oil and gas situation, though, right tonight, because it's very, very important to understand. OPEC Plus is part of the important equation is Venezuela. You need to get the gasoline, and you need to get the gasoline to our partner countries. Our partner countries need the gasoline right away. Sixth stimulus takes time. They need the gasoline right away, because if their economy goes under, if their economy goes into major economic meltdown because of Vladimir Putin, because they took out Russian oil, then our economy is going under, and we ain't coming back for 2 more years. What I mean by under, it's the R word, recession. That is why every country that we do business with needs to get off Russian oil and onto something else right away. This is where the White House has fallen apart. This is where the White House should have had its task force on hand. Number one, it should have gotten the OPEC Plus countries to ramp up production day one of the invasion. In fact, it should have done it since October when the invasion was apparent last year. They should have gotten those OPEC Plus countries to increase production. At the time of this recording, OPEC Plus has still not agreed to increase production. They're just considering the situation. This includes countries like the United Arab Emirates, which is a big partner ally of the United States. They have millions of barrels of gasoline they can release, and the White House has not leaned on them to release it. That's number one. Number two, Venezuela. Venezuela has the ability to release additional sums of barrels right today, and those big barrels would alleviate the pressure of Germany, France, and Italy to get off of Russian oil. Remember, you got to solve this equation right away. This is not an 8-week experiment, folks. You cannot maintain the current price of gasoline in the United States through the month of May, or the United States goes into recession for 2 years starting next year. Number two, you cannot maintain the current price of international Brent crude through the month of May, or the United States will also go into recession, whether or not we increase production domestically or not. This is why the number one priority of the White House administration economically right now should be to get those partner countries to ramp up production and get it over to those other countries. If you don't do it, we're going into recession. It's as simple as that. And while Brent crude may have fallen overnight because of a potential hope that Iraq would ramp up production, that's just a hope. Iraq did not agree to ramp up production overnight. So as that comment from that analyst, which I feature on this channel daily, said, I'm not getting ahead of the situation. We don't have to deal with that as well. Meantime, the ridiculousness of Jetgate. Jetgate, yes, the vice president has been dispatched to the war zone area of Ukraine tonight to deal with Jetgate, and it's about as ridiculous as anything I ever covered on the channel. What's at issue? The issue is that the United States has dedicated some fighter jets for the Ukrainian military defense to Poland, and then Poland has some jets for Ukraine as well. It's sort of a swap out of jets. What's the problem? No one wants to be the party passing over the jet. Here's the jet, here it is. They don't want to be that person because they say if they are the actual person delivering the jet, then they'll be responsible for what eventually becomes a battle with Vladimir Putin. Why is this ridiculous? Park the darn jet on the street and leave the keys in the ignition. I mean, really? It's just ridiculous. World leaders cannot agree to just park a jet on the side of the road and tell the Ukrainian military defense, the jet is parked there, I don't know how it got there, the keys in the ignition, go get it. Rather than that, no one will deliver the jet to the Ukrainian military defense because they don't want to take responsibility saying, I delivered the jet. Good. Just park the jet and leave the keys and run for it. I mean, this is where you don't need to dispatch the vice president. You just need to think a little bit logically. But not thinking logically is part of the equation at the moment. And tomorrow morning, that inflationary number will be released, and Jay Powell, he has to think logically. Meantime, $80,000 in new stimulus checks going live. Have you gotten that big sums of money? The good news is that if you got that money, the $80,000, you can get third stimulus as well. Wow. And also sixth stimulus. Let me go over what sixth stimulus is. Sixth stimulus is the latest effort by France, Germany, and the United States to pass the biggest social spending bill to alleviate the pressure of economic developments on gasoline on its citizens. What's at issue? Germany, the United States, and France all believe that Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine will cause gas prices to stay high. That whether you pivot off of Vladimir Putin's gasoline or get some gasoline from Venezuela, they think that the gasoline problem is not going away quickly. So, rather than stay on Russian oil, they have to get off Russian oil. And to do it, they're going to debt spend and give relief to their citizens. Governors will give relief as well. Legislators locally will give relief as well. But what we're talking about right now is national relief. And this is being led by France. When would it formulate? You're likely to really watch a key date, and that key date is early April. That's when we learn whether the president of France, Macron, is reelected. If he's reelected, then you have a trifecta of France, Germany, and the United States that would pass this legislation. It has nothing to do with the Latvia Baltic states, was shored up by Blinken this week, because that is a potential next invasion point for Vladimir Putin. It has nothing to do with the OPEC plus countries, whether they ramp up production in Iraq that could bring down gasoline, and it has nothing to do whether there's a recession or not. It is really a major alliance that would deal with the situation, whether gasoline goes down or goes up. It's sixth stimulus. Meantime, the great news is that viewers are getting big sums of money for third stimulus. And how do you get that money? Let's look at the details tonight. Third stimulus is still paying out, and viewers should get it across the board. You're going to reach out to your city hall, your county housing authority, and your state housing authority. The success stories continue to come on in, like Mel Pin, a member of this channel, who got last night on Evenings in LA $9,000. Carol Moore, a member, who got $4,000 last night and $1,100 for utilities. And David Allen, who got $10,000 last night from watching Evening in LA. The big success stories continue to come on in. And remember, when you're getting that third stimulus, you're a member. You want to open that membership newsletter that features the big $80,000 in new checks and also third stimulus. You can get third stimulus and the $80,000 at the same time across the board. Also, lean on the nonprofits. Viewers have gotten on average $45,000 from third stimulus. If you haven't become a member, the link is under the video tonight. Become a member and get that incredible sums of money across the board. When you're looking at the situation unfolding tonight, it's very fluid, and the energy crisis is among the major issues. But why is the White House not really dealing with the situation, and who the world is big shot? And what do you need to know about that potential recession and inflation? And also, what do you need to know about the commodity situation and why it could send us into tailspin tonight? A lot of details to wrap up tonight's recording, and I'm going to go over all of them starting right now. The major issue is that the White House has not really analyzed a lot of these economic factors that were clearly at issue back in October when 100,000 Russian troops were at the Ukrainian border. Didn't do the analysis then, should have done the analysis to determine would wheat, grain, soybean prices surge out of control, as they have, if a Vladimir Putin of Ukraine happens, and it's happened. Since the 10 days have passed, 10 plus days have passed of the invasion, has the White House had Treasury work on it? No. And now industry after industry, commodity after commodity is at the brink of potential economic explosion or collapse or volatility because the White House has no plan at issue. What's happening? Overnight, one guy called Big Shot out of South Asia had made a bet, a major bet, that nickel would go in a particular direction because of electric vehicles. He bet wrong. And because of Vladimir Putin, he's on the wrong side of the bet. So much on the wrong side of the bet that banks that are covering his position may go under. Nickel, wheat, grain, soybeans are among the many commodities, items you hold in your hand, that are surging out of economic control, major price escalation, because they're potentially out of the pipeline because of Vladimir Putin. And the White House has done nothing about this. This is even more than oil and gas. When you look at oil and gas, pretty easy part of the equation, and it's getting worse by the moment. Vladimir Putin in the last 24 hours has vowed to cut off his export of any gasoline to Germany. Let's be very frank here. If you cut off the the providing of gasoline to Germany, where's Germany going to get gasoline overnight? It's not like it's sitting around. The situation is that Nord 1, which is the way you provide gasoline to Germany from Russia, may be yanked overnight. And if it's yanked overnight, you ain't just dealing with inflation, you're dealing with recession. Venezuela should have been approached by the partner allies weeks ago, the number one producer of gasoline, to ramp up production. OPEC should have been leaned on by the partner allies weeks ago to ramp up production, give it to those partner countries like Germany and France. None of this has been done. None of this has been done. All that has been done has been talking about shoring up Latvia, Lithuania, and those Baltic states in the event that a potential move by Vladimir Putin into them strategically is next. Strategic defense is one issue, but economic defense is weather. The vice president is overseas trying to negotiate who parks a plane and where they deliver the keys. Ridiculousness. The vice president should be overseas figuring out how do we get wheat and grain to Italy and France, because there it's no longer available because Vladimir Putin is engulfing and circling the beautiful port town of Odessa. Nothing is being done economically on this front as Vladimir Putin continues to advance. The war overseas is likely not to be a few days, likely not to be a few weeks. In fact, a new report from a UK Prime Minister says it's likely to go on for months. Months? Yes, you heard me right. Earlier in this video, I said the current gas prices in the United States are not sustainable more than 6 weeks. If they remain in place by May, we're heading recession. How do you get them down? You get those alliances, those economic alliances to increase production. While I invite and I celebrate the Secretary of Energy's comments tonight that she's excited to potentially ramp up production, I just have to take it with a grain of salt. It sounds like a lot of talk and sounds like not a lot of walk. Why? This should have been done and addressed day one of the invasion. It should have been prepared by Treasury in October of last year. And to say that you're talking about the situation tonight sounds very, very questionable at best. It's only one of many industries that are not being addressed by the White House, like grain, wheat, soybeans, nickel as well. None of these industries are being dispatched. And to dispatch the vice president overseas to deal with the delivery of a plane? No. The vice president should be overseas ensuring that allegiances with our Western allies are in place economically, so that gasoline can be pivoted to those partner countries, so that commodities can be pivoted to those partner countries as well. This is part of the purpose of diplomacy, economic diplomacy. OPEC Plus countries need to ramp up production. OPEC Plus countries have said that they disavow and they denounce Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression. But are they helping us economically? Not yet. And this is why the vice president should be focusing that attention on the front as much as on the political front and the delivery of planes. Meantime, the words at issue that are circling in the act of war are confusing a lot of people and sometimes viewers. Let me go over the details tonight. One of those words is the word ceasefire. When people have heard the word ceasefire, at least in the financial markets the last 24 hours, they have often traded up individual instruments, whether it's stocks, bonds, or commodities. Let's understand, the word ceasefire does not mean that the war has halted. It means that a safe corridor was effectuated. The safe corridor was featured on this channel since last Saturday. And the good news is that 11 hours of a ceasefire for the corridors was effectuated. That economically doesn't impact anyone. Let me explain what's happening and why words are very confusing in an act of words are very confusing in an act of war. When you hear the word ceasefire, that does not mean that the war in the Ukraine and Russia has stopped. It means that a safe corridor has been effectuated to allow women and children to flee safely to the Polish or Hungary border. But when some people in the financial markets have heard the word ceasefire in the last 24 hours, they shot up commodities. They traded them the wrong way, thinking that they had just heard news that the Ukrainian-Russian invasion had ended. Not ended. So be very, very careful of words that you hear in the next few days, because economically they could have you on the wrong side of the equation if you don't understand what they significantly mean. The good news is that those women and children that had been bunkered down, running out of water, electric, and food for days, were in some cases able to flee to neighboring Poland. I'll have more about the humanitarian crisis tomorrow on Street and Stimulus, and tonight on that Street and Stimulus broadcast at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. But the situation economically on the front here is very unsettling. It's unsettling because there's a lot of commodities, and none of those commodities are stabilized, and they're becoming more destabilized day after day by Vladimir Putin. It's more unsettling because while we have a moral agenda to get off of Russian oil, we also have an economic agenda to prepare to pivot to something else. And that something else has not been effectuated. Are we ramping up in production in West Texas? When are we ramping up? Who is ramping up? Are we pivoting our partner allies off of Russian oil? What are they getting? What oil are they getting instead? Are they getting it from Venezuela? Are they getting it from Iraq? These are very simple questions that need a very simple answer. And it's very confusing why the White House hasn't done this. The good news when we look back at your money tonight is there's a lot of it. And let's go over the details of that big money tonight. Number one, CR for stimulus just a few days away. We're going to see whether the House passes the continuing resolution and sends it to the Senate as intact. But the Senate could still modify the legislation and put a $2,000 stimulus check in there. Number two, that $80,000 of checks that the President of the United States announced last Friday, now live, and live in more states than initially thought. And viewership of this channel, if you're a member, you should have already started applying. If you're a member, it's already now live in respective states like California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, Missouri, Pennsylvania, and New York. Yes, this is $15,000 to $80,000 of checks. You need to get it as well. Number three, Build Back Better Act will happen, and that Build Back Better Act will pass. And it is the latest piece of economic legislation. But the other one that's really at issue will happen tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we'll see the latest inflationary number for January 2022. Does it track at 8%? If it does, then you want to make that swap for cola. But we have that big problem with gasoline prices. Again, if gasoline prices do not come down by May and sustain current levels, we're heading to recession in 2023. A lot of details throughout the night. I'll stay with you and we'll stay on top of the subjects. Whether it's rumor, whether it's fact, whether it's internationally, whether it's domestically, whether it's a check or it's a program, whether it's pumping out gas or it's pumping out corn, whether it's delivering a plane or figuring out where to park it, whether it's a big shot or a small shot, it's all here on Evenings Lalate. I appreciate your patronage and I send prayers to the families in Ukraine as they flee to the border. We hope that another safe passage is effectuated between the negotiations of Russian and Ukrainian officials so that more women and children can get to Poland and Hungary in the next 24 hours. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful evening, and join me nightly, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for America's most watched financial news show in prime time, Evenings Lalate.